Hi, guys. It's Miss Fry. It's good to be with you again. I hope everybody's well and rested and ready to come back to school. The club that I chose to do with all of you is actually story time. Who doesn't love to be read to? Who doesn't love a good story? Um, the book that I chose to read to you was actually one of my favorites when I was your age. You may have even seen a movie or two based off of it. It's called I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. And if you've seen the movies, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, okay? I want you to set that aside, forget what you've seen in the movies. A lot of time with literary licensing, what's in the movie is not necessarily what was in the book. And from someone that's read the book and loved the book and then saw the movies, you want to set it aside and listen to this, okay? So let's get started. I hope you love it as much as I do. Okay. Chapter 1. The note was there, lying beside her plate, when she came down to breakfast. Later, when she thought back, Julie would remember it. Small, plain, her name and address handwritten in stark black print across the front of the envelope. At the time, however, she had eyes only for the other letter, long and white and official. Hurriedly, she picked this up and paused, glancing across the table at her mother, who had just come in from the kitchen. It's here, Julie said. Well, aren't you going to open it? Mrs. James set the coffee pot down on its hot plate. You've been waiting for this long enough. I would think you'd have had it open before you ever sat down. I guess I'm scared, Julie admitted. She slipped her forefinger under the corner of the flap. Okay, here goes. Running her finger the length of the envelope, she drew out the folded sheet of stationery and smoothed it flat on the table. Dear Miss James, she read aloud, I am pleased to inform you that you have been accepted. Oh, honey, her mother gave a little gasp of delight. How wonderful. Accepted, Julie repeated. Mom, can you believe it? I'm accepted. I'm going to Smith. Mrs. James came around the table and gave her daughter a warm hug. I'm so proud of you, Julie, and your dad certainly would be too, if only he could have lived to have known about it. But oh, there's just no sense in looking back. Her eyes were suspiciously bright. Maybe he does know. I like to think so. And if not, I'm proud enough for both of us. I can't believe it, Julie said. I honestly can't. When I took those tests, I felt as though I was missing so many questions. I guess I knew more than I thought I did. It's your senior year that's made this possible, her mother said. I've never seen such a change in anybody as in you this past year. The way you've buckled down and studied, you've been a completely different person. And I'll admit this now, it's worried me a little. Worried you, Julie exclaimed in surprise. I thought you always dreamed of my going to the same college you did. Last year, you were on me all the time about being out too much and never cracking a book and spending half my life at cheerleading practice. I know, it's just that I never expected you to do such an about face. I can almost pinpoint the day it happened. It was just about the time you broke up with Ray. Mom, I've told you. Julie tried to keep her voice light, despite the sudden shock of cold that hit her stomach. Ray and I didn't exactly break up. We just decided we were seeing too much of each other and we'd slow it down for a while. Then he left home and took off for the coast, and that took care of that. But to give up dating so completely, I haven't, Julie said impatiently. I still go out some. In fact, Bud's coming over tonight. That's a date. Yes, there's Bud, but there's only been recently, and it's not the same. He's older, more serious about everything. Of course, I'm happy and proud that you've put in enough work to get accepted by a good East Coast college, but I wish you'd been able to balance it better. Somehow, I have the feeling that you've missed a lot of fun of your senior year. Well, you can't have it all, Julie said. Her voice sounded high and sharp even to her own ears. The cold feeling in her stomach was spreading higher, up where it touched her heart. She shoved back her chair and got up. I'm going up to my room. I've got to find my history notes. But you haven't eaten, Mrs. James exclaimed, gesturing toward the plate of scrambled eggs and toast still untouched on the table. I'm sorry, Julie said. I guess I'm too excited. She could feel her mother's worried gaze upon her as she left the table. Even after she was out of eyesight, the worry stayed with her as she climbed the stairs and went down the hall to her room. Mom knows too much, she thought. She has this funny way of knowing more than you ever tell her. I've never seen such a change in anybody, her mother had said. I can almost pinpoint the day. But you can't, Julie told her silently. Not really. You shouldn't try. Please, Mom, you shouldn't ever try. She entered her bedroom and shoved the door shut. It closed with a sharp click, and her mother was left behind back in the breakfast room with the uneaten eggs and the coffee pot. The room closed protectively around her, a perfect room for a teenage girl who was pretty and loved and happy with herself, a girl who had never had a problem. Her mother had had the room decorated for her a little over a year ago on her 16th birthday. We'll have it done in any color you want, she had said. You can choose. Pink, Julie had said immediately. It was her favorite color, the one she wore most often, even though she had red hair. There was a pale pink t-shirt in the farthest corner of her closet, buried behind the other clothes. It had been new that night last summer. You look like a rosebud with freckles, Ray had teased her. The shirt looked great on her, but she had never worn it after that night. She would have given it away if she had not been afraid that her mother might remember it sometime and ask what had become of it. Now she seated herself on the end of her bed, drawing deep, slow breaths while the cold within her faded and her heart grew still. This is dumb, Julie told herself firmly. It's been almost a year since the thing happened. It's over and done with, and I swore to myself I'd never think about it again. If I let myself get this uptight over some innocent little comment of Mom's, I'll wind up right back where I started, an absolute basket case. Across from her in the oval mirror over the bureau, another Julie stood, looked back at her, pale and unsmiling. I have changed, she thought, with the mild surprise. The girl in the mirror bore little resemblance to last year's Julie. Bubbly, bouncy, spark plug of the pep squad, the cheerleader with the smallest size and the biggest gel. This girl had shadows behind her eyes and a tightness about the mouth. You're going to Smith, Julie told herself. Just keep that in mind, will you? You're getting out of here in only a couple of months. You won't be going to the university. You'll be going east, away from this town and the road and the picnic area above it. You won't be running into Ray's mother at the drugstore. You won't see Barry on campus or Helen on television. You'll be out, free. A new place, new people, new things to do, and think about a whole new set of things to remember. She felt steadier now. Her breathing was slow again and even. She picked up the letter from Smith, which she had dropped on the bed beside her, and looked again at her name, neatly typed and on the official-looking envelope. She would take it to school with her, she decided. There were people there she could show it to. Not to any other students especially. There wasn't anyone that she was close to this year. But Mr. Price, her English teacher, would be happy for her, and Mrs. Busby, who taught American Studies. And tonight, when Bud came over, she would show it to him. He'd be impressed, and sorry maybe, because she would be going away. Bud had been calling so often recently that it was possible that he was getting more serious than he should be. It would be good for him to realize that in this relationship, it wasn't going anywhere, and that it was just for now, and in the fall she would be somewhere else. There was a rap on the bedroom door. Julie, her mother asked, are you keeping track of the time, dear? Yes. No, I guess I wasn't. Julie got up off the bed and opened the door. I was just sitting here, gloating over the acceptance. Honestly, I'd just about given up hoping. It's been so long since I applied. I know, Mrs. James said sympathetically, and I didn't mean to take the wind out of your sails by criticizing. I know how hard you've been working, and I've been afraid you were overdoing it. I'm glad that now you can relax and enjoy your summer. I'm glad too, Julie said. She put her arms around her mother and gave an impulsive hug. Her mother's arms came back around her, surprised and glad. I ought to hug her more often, Julie thought. I don't deserve to have somebody like this for a mother. I love her so much, and I'm all she has since Daddy died. Now I'll be going away, and she'll be all alone, and she's still happy for me. Are you sure you'll be okay? She asked against her mother's soft cheek. Can you get along, do you think, with me so far away? Oh, I think so, Mrs. James said with a catch in her voice that was supposed to pass for laughter. I made out all right before you were born, didn't I? I'll keep busy. I've been thinking that maybe I'll go back to work full time. Would you like that? Julie asked. Her mother had been a home economics teacher before her marriage, and since her husband's death 8 years ago, she had been working as a substitute. I think I would. It would be nice to have my own class again. With you out of the nest, there won't be anyone to need me at home, so it's time to be needed somewhere else. I did lose track of time, Julie said apologetically. I'd better get going. Her mother glanced at her watch. You are late. Would you like for me to drive you? That's all right, Julie told her. I haven't been late all year, so it won't kill me to get a late slip today. And maybe I won't. Mr. Price is a pretty good, nice guy about things like that. She gathered up her books and history notes from the bedside table. Downstairs, she paused long enough to rummage in the coin bowl on the sideboard for enough money to buy a Coke later. I'll see you after school, she said. Bud's not picking me up till around 8, so there's no reason we have to eat early. Are you going out any place? I don't have any plans, Mrs. James said. Wait a minute, honey. You didn't get your other letter. Yes, I did. It's here in my notebook. No, I mean the other one. Her mother leaned across the table to pick up the second envelope, half concealed by the edge of the egg plate. There were 2 pieces of mail for you this morning. Not that this could possibly be as exciting as the first one. It's the size of a party invitation, though I don't know who would be inviting me to a party. Julie took the small envelope from her mother's hand. That's funny. It has big block printing and no return address. She tore the envelope open and removed a folded sheet of lined paper. Who is it from? Her mother called back over her shoulder as she carried the breakfast dishes into the kitchen. Anybody I've heard of? No, Julie said. Nobody you know. With slowly growing horror, she stared at the letter, at the one black sentence that peered up at her from the smudged paper. I'm going to be sick, she thought. Her legs felt weak, and she reached out and caught hold of the edge of the table to steady herself. It's a dream, she told herself hopefully. I'm not really awake and standing here in the dining room at all. I'm lying in bed upstairs asleep, and this is the only nightmare like the ones I used to have back in the beginning. I'll close my eyes, and when I open them, I will wake up. It will be gone. The paper will be gone. It will never have been. So she closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, the paper was still there in her hand, with one short sentence printed on it. I know what you did last summer. Okay, guys, that's the end of chapter 1. So I hope you enjoyed it. Makes you wonder what she did last summer. Catch me for chapter 2 next time. Have a good day. Bye.